Today, we've got a guest with a masterclass. That's Professor Mihir. He needs no introduction. I'm sure most of us have seen NDTV. An extremely important course on effective communication has been taught, and which has been a very transformational course for a lot of people. And today, I would let Professor spearhead the conversation, wearing multiple hats, but I'm really looking forward, and like the rest of us, also really looking forward to the session overall. So, like I said, I'd let you spearhead the masterclass. Over to you. And I'm just looking forward to learning and grasping. I'm so sorry, I'm just fumbling a little because I think, like I said at the introduction, also totally starstruck. So looking forward to the masterclass overall.
Thank you very much, Nija. I think you escaped from giving my introduction by saying he needs no introduction. So for the poor people here, I will need to provide a little bit, but I'm delighted to be here. So yeah, I've been much more of a journeyman than a destination person. I've actually spent some time in management consulting as a TV anchor, and over the past several years, I've been teaching courses on communication. And it's also been a journey for me to go through thousands of participants on both the graduate student side as well as executives who have enrolled for courses and short courses. So today's workshop or masterclass / Q&A session will be a preview for what's to come for many of you. But let's just, we have chat right now. Let me just see by way of introduction. So a couple of you, will you share your just your responses? So I see Anjali Shukla is here. Anjali, hi. Where are you joining us from? Can you put it in chat, please, so we can see? In fact, most of you can just jot down where you all are joining this webinar from. I think it's going to be very helpful for us to understand the diversity. So Anjali, so Murli Shekhar is joining from Chennai. I see Kunal from Seattle. Thank you. Sharat from Pune, Mansi from Bhopal, Manish Sharma from Bangalore, Prem from Bangalore. Amitabh Srivastav from Mumbai. Great. Viransh Patil from Karnataka. Sagar Pandey. Hello, Sagar, Uttar Pradesh. AP Mumbai again. Erakulam, Kerala. GNK Hafsa Muzaffar. Thank you for joining us all the way from Jammu and Kashmir. And Sagar Pandey has put I again. So I don't know where that is, but wherever that is, thank you. So Karina is mentioning that she's a clinical nutritionist and corporate wellness speaker. Mansi has also said hello. Okay, great. So, this course and this master camp is really to give you the best of my courses throughout over the last 10 years that I've been teaching in a nutshell. And it's primarily on the art of communication. Now, within communication, you have written communication as well as verbal communication. And the focus of my courses has been primarily on verbal communication and effectively being able to speak in a concise and precise manner. So this is a skill set that is very important, but there isn't much structure on how to do this. Along the way, I think you will also sharpen your ability to understand how much to say, when to say it, how to say it, and also to have a little bit of nuance on what to say. So a lot of times in these interventions, there is a sense that you kind of learn the techniques. What should you do with your arms, with your eyes, your calmness, your voice modulation? But I truly believe that there is a methodology towards sharpening the what to say. In fact, that has been the focus of a book that I was working on the last couple of years called Minutes of Magic, in which I have brought in 80 of the best speeches from about 3,000 that I have heard from graduate students and put in transcripts. And that book is called Minutes of Magic. So it's also a corresponding website, which you all can look at your leisure. But I think this is one of the areas that has resonated a lot more with executives on thinking about also the what to say. Now, I have some slides for you, but before that, I'd like to ask you a question. And I wouldn't like you to Google the answer. I would like you to just think about what that response could be. And that question is that what is the speed of speech? As we are deciding how much to say and what to say, we need to understand how much can fit. So let's imagine you are asked to come in for a major TED talk or which is timed. And let's say they give you exactly 5 minutes or 300 seconds. How many words will you be able to speak in those 300 seconds? So write that down. Okay, so total 300 seconds and you have to prepare a speech. And don't tell me that some people speak fast, some people speak slow, because the distribution of speaking speed across populations is quite narrow. In fact, it's narrower than a normal distribution. So let's see. So we have some guesses here. Nija saying 3 to 4 words per second. Mr. Manish Sharma is saying 100 words per minute. So 100 words per minute is about 1.6 words per second. Rizwan Ali is saying 100 to 150 words in 300 seconds. And Sagar Pandey is saying, I'm a fast speaker and struggling to improve. Now, with this, I would like you to really take one golden lesson today, that there is a speed to speech. While you can read maybe 3 or 4 times faster than the next person, it is very difficult to speak twice as fast as someone else, or even half as fast as someone else. So what is that right answer? 300 words. Now, you see, within this group itself, we're having quite a range. So you have Himanshu who's saying that it could be 40 to 50 words per minute, which is actually 1.2 seconds per word. While above that, we had someone else who said it's 3 to 4 words per second. So just in this group itself, you're going to find someone preparing a speech that is 8 times or 7 times or 6 times as long as someone else. Someone's got to be wrong. And so what is that answer? Let me demonstrate it to you. I just spoke about 9 words in 3 seconds. So the speed of speech is about 2.5 words to 3 words per second. And I hope you remember this for life. A lot of people, including speechwriters to politicians, aren't aware of this rule. And it is quite alarming because everything is being timed these days, that attention spans are getting shorter. And I think not knowing this doesn't allow you to plan effectively for your communication. So that by itself, hopefully, is a bit of a nugget of wisdom on communication. Any reactions to this? What do people feel? For those who have said less than a word a second, let me demonstrate this. If I speak like this, then it is a word a second. And unless you assume dramatic pauses or a Q&A, if you go through just a typical TED Talk, it will be at 2.5 words per second. For this book that I have put together, Minutes of Magic, it is actually, these are 80 transcripts of students who all delivered 4-minute speeches, and they are at 600 words for each speech transcript. So it is a pretty good rule. It's followed in television and radio, and it applies in everyday speaking. Any reactions? So it doesn't depend, Prashant, on the tempo of your speech. There might be a little variation. Maybe you can get it to 2.25. Maybe you can get it to 3.25. But I guarantee you, if you record yourself, it will not be 4 and above. And it will not be 1.5 word a second. So I hope this is, again, a revelation. Okay. So since we are on this format, let me go through some of the slides and try to make this quite visual, because no one wants to read a lot of words at the end of the day. It's 5:30. And I want to give you a pretty quick overview of a little bit of this world, my world, and then open it up for some questions that you might have if you're thinking of enrolling in this program. So here they are. We'll also do a little video case study if you stay towards the end, but here it is. So I trust you can see this, and if I just walk you through a little bit of some of the expressions. Look, public speaking is the #1 fear in the world. It is greater than the fear of death itself in survey after survey. But the good news here is that despite this being an Achilles heel for a lot of people, where you dread, coming on stage, you dread being live and speaking in a setting where there's a lot of people on the other side, that this can be improved with practice. As I find, these are my students in the US. I teach both in the US at Tufts and Harvard, and I also teach in India at the Indian School of Business and Masters Union and Ashoka University, a couple of places that I've enjoyed really coming to. And it is what I find in a number of institutions, that despite having a lot of international students, it is these students that often do as well as the American students, as the English students. because of the effort that they put in. And these are, again, alums from all over the world who share stories in the course that we will be going through, that some of you might be enrolling in. We will also have an opportunity to share your core value, to pick a speech and get some feedback. Now, this is, again, at some of my Indian institutions. When I come here, my goal is to build a community, but I also try to do it with the right amount of pressure. So there will be a little bit of pushing and getting you out of your comfort zone as we go through this experience. And there's also a module on shining online. I think this is often underestimated, thinking about your executive presence, thinking about your ability to public speak and storytell online. So that is also one of our agenda items. Now, in my courses, I've had a range of people, including diplomats and police officers and corporate executives. And this is a very formal first day shot of a group of Greek diplomats. But if you take a look at the last day shot, you can see how they bonded. And there is nothing I feel that bonds better than speaking. When everyone here shares a core value and you get to know their life stories, there is a tremendous power in community that forms through communication. This is a group of senior police officers too, and on the other side of the world that we work with. And sometimes their stories inspire each other and lead to policy changes too. So I hope this is all clear for Vaibhav and team for you to see the slides. And so the thought is that, look, I don't want to just learn, how to hold myself, how to make eye contact and use my hands, but I really want to see the spoken word as a catalyst for my life. And towards that, let me take stock here and just see if there are any questions before I go further and tell you a little bit about the content of the course. So how are we doing? Are we good with this so far? Any questions on public speaking being the number one fear, on the speed of speech, on the range? All good, Anjali Shukla says. Okay. Yeah, I think it would be really nice to have some of you. So when we do this class, it will be in a way that you all can say things and respond. So it's very interactive by nature. Prem is saying all good. Okay, let's just continue. So yeah, so spoken word as a career catalyst. Now, my journey has been diverse, and I draw on each bit of experience to create these classes. So I was very early in my life. I was a aspiring tennis player. Both my parents had played sports. Dad played cricket for India. Mother played tennis. And then my sport got me to my dream university in the US. I went to Stanford University for undergrad on a scholarship that I was very lucky to get, and then worked in some of the more conventional organizations that you might have heard of after my MBA. But after that, went to the other side of management tools and technology, worked at a nonprofit that served people with disabilities, and also worked with the Clinton Foundation, managing the India office, serving children with HIV. And then I became an anchor, both a business and a sports anchor, and then unexpectedly got a role in teaching, which I've been keeping up over the last 9 years, in fact, almost 10 now. And through that journey, I've interacted with about 6,000 individuals, that is graduate students and executives, where we have sharpened, at least made a very good attempt of sharpening the arts of communication. On that note, I want to tell you that, as I think of a lifelong skill in communication, I think there's a realistic growth that we can consider. So the thought is, if you provide your 20 hours into this course and work hard and work smart, the guarantee is that you move the needle on your verbal communication score by a half point. Now, the average comes to about 1 point and above, but half point is a guarantee. And half point may seem like a small number, but I think it is quite significant for a 20-hour effort on something that is a lifelong skill. And I think, and I'm confident, and it's been proven, that there is that low-hanging fruit to make that delta. So along the way, when you start becoming good at speaking, it is a process that makes you enjoy, and this is a sign that you're doing it right, that you don't just go to an important speaking assignment and say, I need to get done with it, despite technology following through and just all the nerves kicking in. But you say that you start to slow time down, basically, and process things better. So what is this course about? Well, it's about the different arts of verbal communication. And each of these require a little bit of thinking. Okay, each of these will require just a little bit of consideration and some simulation. So through a set of case studies, as in business school, finance, marketing, operations have case studies. Here we have speaker case studies and your own interaction and intervention that is a sort of a learning through osmosis model. And people come out of this wiser, better. Some people go through a transformation, but you will ideally get to about a 5 to 10% delta on your communication. And along the way, we also talk about communication presence. And to me, that is the ability to bring your most relaxed and authentic self in the most challenging situations, right? Your ability to slow time down. Good speakers go on a trajectory where they start enjoying their speech, but also that everything coming at them, the difficult questions, come at a slower pace. It's like, when you're in cricket, when you see the ball, it just slows down for you so you can decide where to hit it on the field. And so we'll be doing some real-time simulations. If we had a live video, we would have done this. But actually, it's good that I don't steal the thunder of the class for a very good simulation at the beginning. We look at Americans, Indians, Nigerians, people from Europe, all over the world to understand how to sharpen what to say, how much to say, and how to say it, and also at times when to say things. This is very much a curation of communication for adults who have seen life, rather than a set of prescriptive items that you need to apply, because each person is different. And through that process also become more concise and precise, which I consider as an important 21st century skill. So with that, wait, before we proceed further, where are we? How is this all good still? Are there any questions so far amongst any of you? Okay, I'm hoping that people haven't gone to sleep. The numbers seem to have gone up, but if I have put you to sleep, that's also good that you're getting a nap at the end of a long day. So Karina, so far so good. Virash, no question, none as of now, no questions, and we are glued in. Okay, that's good. How to be calm while speaking? Yes. And how to be calm by speaking is a matter of going through exercises and really living it. It's like saying, how can I hit a cover drive like Sachin Tendulkar? Well, you'll need some technique, but then you just have to hit like 2,000 cover drives like Sachin to be able to be calm. And in fact, one of the worst pieces of advice to a nervous speaker as he or she is going up to the podium is saying, hey, just calm down. Hey, just relax. It is, I recognize that. And it is something that I've seen over time. And that's why there is something very powerful in the structure and seriousness of a course on communication. It just creates the right pressure, the right environment, the right structure for you to go through together rather than just practicing in front of a mirror or reading a book. Okay, anything else? See, so how does rhetoric play a role in communication? Okay, so these are some general questions I'll come to at the end, but let me just see if there's anything specific on anything we've covered, including my background, anything that you need clarification on. Okay, how to use specific words rather than common words. Okay, let's keep some of these general questions. I'll just continue, and then we'll come back to it at the end. Okay, so besides the speed of speech, I want to leave you with a few nuggets for today, since you've made the time. It might be a little bit of repetition of class one, but I think it's okay, so that you get a flavor. So this is the first nugget for today, speed of speech. Now, beyond this, someone brought up rhetoric right now, how to think about rhetoric. In ancient Greek history, this was a big term, right? This was an art that allows you to persuade or motivate audiences. But I've talked about presence being able to bring your relaxed and most authentic self. So if we apply it to the modern world, and you talk about what makes a good, strong speaker, whether you consider Prime Minister Modi, or you consider a politician, or Amitabh Bachchan, or whoever, Shashi Tharoor, the problem with trying to understand what makes a good speaker and try to bring it to yourself is that the list gets too large. When the list is too large, nothing sticks. So how do we shorten this list? This is just a set of things, and you could add 100 more things to what makes a good speaker. Before this, we go back to Aristotelian times and think about his wisdom around three appeals: logos, ethos, and pathos. And I think what he was saying is that for any verbal communication piece to really resonate, It needs to be logical in terms of the content. So the content needs to be strong, the structuring, there should be inherent logic within the claim. There should be facts and stats that support, but it also needs to have credibility. And the credibility has to do with your experience, your expertise, your reputation on the one hand, but also your being able to convince people on the other side that you are the right person to be speaking here, or that you are passionate about this topic. The question of why are you speaking about this really needs to come through clearly. And then finally, it's the pathos. So I would say the string connecting you to the audience. This is everything, not just emotions, but everything that you do other than reading your script in a stoic manner to connect to the audience. Now, I'd argue that if you have all three of these, your piece, whether it's an update, it's a presentation to one person, to a few, to many, will resonate. And then finally, we have this concept of sound bites. So sound bites are lines, or basically they are encapsulated statements. So what they do is that they encapsulate the essence of what you had been talking about in the last few paragraphs for the entire speech. And if someone was to take a transcript or a video of your piece and cut it into its most important lines, these serve as the headlines, as they would in a PowerPoint document to your speech. And if there's a highlight reel, they'll make it there, and someone reads the sound bites, the speech should come to them. So now how do we incorporate this into a lesson? Like, how can we internalize some of this? So I'm going to show you a case study, but before that, let me stop again and see if you have any other questions for so far. Like, do you have anything on these three concepts? No questions? And we can just get right into the case. Okay, now I'll come back to all these questions, vocabulary, specific words, as much as we can do, at least in the time frame that we have. Let's do this. I'm going to share the screen and I'm going to show you a verbal communication piece. In this piece, I would like you to think about what were the sound bites, right? What were the sound bites in this speech? And also, how would you assess the logos or the logical appeal? When was the ethos there, or the appeal from credibility? And what about the pathos, or how did the speaker really connect with you? Now, what I'm going to show you is a short piece of a 19-year-old student. So not a politician or Martin Luther King or Tharoor today, someone, who is great, but someone who could be just like, vulnerable, like someone in the crowd. And this student, about a decade ago, came in to talk about same-sex marriage. Now, this was a controversial topic. The state of Iowa in the US had allowed it, but now there was a motion to overturn that ruling. So a lot of politicians, activists, experienced people in the community were giving talks about whether it should be allowed or disallowed. Amongst that group was a 19-year-old student. Let's watch what he had to say. It's exactly 3 minutes, so it's not very long. So just hold your patience, 180 seconds from start to finish, to the dot.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Zach Walls. I'm a sixth-generation Iowan and an engineering student at the University of Iowa, and I was raised by two women. My biological mom, Terry, told her grandparents that she was pregnant, that the artificial insemination had worked, and they wouldn't even acknowledge it. It actually wasn't until I was born and they succumbed to my infantile cuteness that they broke down and told her that they were thrilled to have another grandson. Unfortunately, neither of them lived to see her marry her partner, Jackie, of 15 years when they wed in 2009. My younger sister and only sibling was born in 1994. We actually have the same anonymous donor, so we're full siblings, which is really cool for me. And I guess the point is that our family really isn't so different from any other Iowa family. When I'm home, we go to church together, we eat dinner, we go on vacations. But we have our hard times too. We get in fights. Actually, my mom, Perry, was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2000. It is a devastating disease that put her in a wheelchair. So we've had our struggles. But, we're Iowans. We don't expect anyone to solve our problems for us. We'll fight our own battles. We just hope for equal and fair treatment from our government. Being a student at the University of Iowa, the topic of same-sex marriage comes up quite frequently in classroom discussions. And the question always comes down to, well, can gays even raise kids? And the question, the conversation gets quiet for a moment because most people don't really have an answer. And then I raise my hand and say, actually, I was raised by a gay couple and I'm doing pretty well. I scored in the 99th percentile on the ACT. I'm actually an Eagle Scout. I own and operate my own small business. If I was your son, Mr. Chairman, I believe I'd make you very proud. Not really so different from any of your children. My family really isn't so different from yours. After all, your family doesn't derive its sense of worth from being told by the state, you're married, congratulations. No, the sense of family comes from the commitment we make to each other, to work through the hard times so we can enjoy the good ones. It comes from the love that binds us. That's what makes a family. So what you're voting here isn't to change us. It's not to change our families, it's to change how the law views us, how the law treats us. You are voting for the first time in the history of our state to codify discrimination into our Constitution, a Constitution that, but for the proposed amendment, is the least amended Constitution in the United States of America. You are telling Iowans that some among you are second-class citizens who do not have the right to marry the person you love. So will this vote affect my family? Would it affect yours? Over the next 2 hours, I'm sure we're going to hear plenty of testimony about how damaging having gay parents is on kids. But in my 19 years, not once have I ever been confronted by an individual who realized independently that I was raised by a gay couple. And you know why? Because the sexual orientation of my parents has had zero effect on the content of my character. Thank you very much.
So that was 3 minutes from start to end. 3 minutes, 180 seconds. And you see at the beginning of the speech, Zach's hands are in his pockets. He's nervous and he uses some fillers. And then as the speech progresses, he gets better and better. Well, the speech was delivered and then it went viral. Next few days later, one of his friends from another college called him and said, "Hey, we're watching your speech. 1 million, 4 million, 10 million, 20 million views." And it set a course of events in motion. So he dropped out of engineering and became an activist, got a full scholarship at Princeton's Woodrow Wilson School. And as of 2 years ago, is the youngest state senator in the history of Iowa. So 3 minutes changed his life. Along the way, he also said that his girlfriend wanted to get back together with him. And apparently he said no. So this is what happens when you have a speech that really connects. Now, let's talk a little bit about the connect of the speaker. So let's talk about the sound bites. In chat, can you please put down what were some of the sound bites that you heard in this piece? And sound bites should be verbatim. So they should be exact line that was used. So Jyoti, that is logical, credible, and emotional is feedback. So that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the exact words that he used that could be the summary statements, that encapsulate the essence of what he had been talking about. So let's see, what were those statements? If you were to think of these capstone statements that were sound bites for this speech. The last sentence, Amitabh, that's right, the last sentence of his speech. Do you remember what that last sentence was? Does anyone remember how he ends his speech? Good. Same-sex marriage does not affect the content of parenting. Okay, so that would be a very good, Vidyatoma, that would be a very good summary of what the speech is. But what about the actual statements? I can give you an example. And Tejas has knocked it out of the ballpark. Yes, Tejas, thank you. Tejas, where are you joining us from? Okay, Tejas, great. Tejas Sonigra from Pune has said, the sexual orientation of my parents has had zero effect on the content of my character. You might remember this line at the end. And you see what this line does. It gives you a summary. You don't need to search for what the summary is. It's right there. So very good, Tejas. And a couple of you said that also. Now, what else could be a soundbite in this piece? So it's the last line. There are a few other sound bites too. If you remember at one point, he says, we are Iowans and we solve our own problems. And that is also a soundbite. So he's inviting Iowans to come in. He says that, what does he say about the Constitution of Iowa? Put it in chat again. What happened about the Constitution of the, Anjali has said it's the least updated. So it's the least amended Constitution in the United States, right? And then he calls Iowans in and says that this is an opportunity for us to do something about this constitution that we've been so conservative about. At one point, he also calls out someone in the group. Who does he call out and what does he say? And that also becomes a soundbite for the speech. Yes, Yogesh, it is the chairman. He's calling out the chairman And he says, if I was your son, Mr. Chairman, I believe I would make you proud. Right? And that is a little, I mean, thinking out of the box, it's a little unexpected, but he also says three things before that statement. And towards that, he says, one, I was an Eagle Scout. Two is I scored in the 99th percentile of the ACT. And what's the third thing that he says before he makes this statement? You have to see how this build-up, comes. I mean, the statement is even stronger if it is preceded by a couple of statements. So he said that he was an Eagle Scout, 99th percentile on the ACT, and he started his own business. Then he says, if I was your son, Mr. Chairman, I believe, not you will, but I believe I would make you proud. And you see the effect that that has. Now, I like asking this question. If you think about it, you just heard the speech. What is the most frequently used word or phrase by Zach Walls in the speech? So what is that? Please put it in chat. Let's see if this group is able to get it. Iowan is not the right answer, Shivang. What else could it be? That's not Iowan. What is the most frequently used word or phrase by Zach in the speech? Family, Vidyatma? No, it's not family. You think that it would be family. Sexual orientation? No. I believe? No. No. Karina, good choice. Gay? No. So what could it be if it's not all of these words? Love? No. Maybe that's a good guess. Prem says I again. No. Would you like a hint? Come on, group. It just happened. Same-sex parenting. No, that was not what he says. Anjali, appreciate your enthusiasm. Where are you joining us today from? And don't be embarrassed. I'm saying this. I just would love to know where you're joining us from and what is your background, Anjali. Bangalore. What are you doing these days, Anjali? In Bangalore. Okay, we'll wait for Anjali's response. I work with Amazon advertising. Okay, wonderful. Good to know. In fact, my book has just been published just last week, actually, it's through Notion Press in India, but it's through Amazon in the US. And I'm excited about it helping people. Okay, so give up. Is the group ready to give up? Yes. Okay, so here is the Amazon link too, in case you want to get in, but somebody I'd like to sign it. Minutes on Amazon India. Yes, I think it's time to tell you what the response, what is the most frequently used word by Zach Walls. And it is not what anyone guessed. That word is, or that phrase is, he uses this filler 12 times in the first half of the speech, and he uses it 0 times in the second half. And while the conventional wisdom would be if you use fillers, you're not going to resonate. But when you do it from a place of authenticity, and when then you reach a crescendo later in your speech, it actually resonates even more. This is a topic that divides the world midway, but when you do a poll and I ask students anonymously and directly whether the speech resonates, over 90% of them say, yes, it resonated with me. That is the charm of this. I'd like to show you just a follow-up video to this. Zach Walls interviewed. So he said basically after this speech, people came out of the woodwork, and started asking him to come on TV. He said that every channel major channel in the US said that they invited him except Fox News, which you can understand, it's a conservative channel. But here is Ellen DeGeneres. Most of you will know about Ellen. Just watch a few minutes of how this very vulnerable everyday student comes in and is interviewed, and see the interaction that he has with her.
Lit up the internet when he delivered an impassioned plea to the Iowa House of Representatives in support of gay marriage. Take a look at him.
So what you're voting here isn't to change us. It's not to change our families. It's to change how the law views us, how the law treats us. You are voting for the first time in the history of our state to codify discrimination into our Constitution. You are telling Iowans that some among you are second-class citizens who do not have the right to marry the person you love. So will this vote affect my family? Would it affect yours? No, the next 2 hours, I'm sure we're going to hear plenty of testimony about how damaging having gay parents is on kids. But in my 19 years, not once have I ever been confronted by an individual who realized independently that I was raised by a gay couple. And you know why? Because the sexual orientation of my parents has had zero effect on the content of my character. Thank you very much.
Zach, it's so funny that you're nervous because I can't imagine the strength it took and how composed you had to be to speak that way, and you didn't come off nervous at all when you did that.
I was shaking.
You were?
I'm shaking now. It's just so cool to have this opportunity to be here and then to share my story and family.
Well, I saw it immediately, and I wanted to have you on as soon as I even saw you. So I'm happy to have you here. And tell for people at home watching, people who don't know what you were speaking about and why you were speaking about it, please.
Well, gay marriage is legal in Iowa, one of only 5 states where that's the case. And the bill I was speaking against would change that.
Mm-hmm.
It would make it so gay marriage isn't legal in Iowa. And, it was one of those things where, when I heard that this bill was even being talked about, like I knew I had to go out there and speak against it. My mom, always taught me that speak up.
Hi, Mom. Terry, right?
Yeah.
Hi, how are you? What a great son you raised. What a great young man. So Terry is your biological mom, and you've been together for how long with your?
16 years.
16 years. Okay, so, and I love also when you said, I'm sorry to interrupt, but when you said that to the judge, I think if I were your son, you'd be very proud because you really are an outstanding guy. Okay, so they were trying to repeal the law, right?
Right. They're trying to change the Constitution so marriage is defined as only between one man and one woman. And and the scary part about that, I guess, for me, is that their lawmakers are supposed to protect us and not take our rights away. So
right.
Yeah, it was.
So you're an engineering student, is that right?
Yep.
And you hear about this, and you just decide. How long did it take you to come up? It didn't look like you were reading; you were just speaking.
Well, I had notes in front of me, but I wrote it like a Saturday, Sunday before the testimony, which was on Monday. So yeah.
So you speak, and then probably you had no idea the impact that would have. 1.5 million hits on YouTube. Yeah. You've had that many views.
Yeah, no idea at all.
And have you been contacted by anyone that that maybe you changed their mind?
Yeah, well, I got a Facebook message actually from a guy who's shipping out to Afghanistan in 2 weeks. He was raised in the Deep South, in his words, raised anti-gay, and he said that after seeing my testimony that he felt his mind had really been changed, and he'd been really anxious about the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and that it changed his mind on that too, and that has really blew me away. I guess I didn't change the mind of the legislators. They still voted, to pass the bill,
right? Which
is really disappointing. But to have this kind of impact on a state, national, even international level, it's really been such a blessing. To be able to call on you, come on your show and share my story with my family.
Well, I think that's what made it so different. I mean, people can hear, and also that's why I think it's important. The more that people see. I mean, we've always had this struggle throughout history in any kind of fight for equality. There's been a fight for equality in many different areas, and we're still having this fight today.
Okay, so I hope that shed a little bit of light. Here, let me get the video back on the speech, right? You don't have to be a superstar to have an impact. Sometimes just well thought through words, sound bites, solid logos, ethos and pathos really connects. So Zach's pathos or his emotional connect is certainly by the examples, his words, even reaching out to the chairman, but it's also through his own vulnerability that they see someone who has come on stage who is not necessarily the most confident speaker to start, but he connects. His logos is very strong. At the very beginning, he also establishes his ethos. He says that my name is Zach Walls. I was raised by 2 women. And that's why I'm here. So very quickly and efficiently, you understand why he's speaking. And then he also connects when he says that even my own grandparents didn't accept this, but it wasn't until they succumbed, as he writes, to my infantile cuteness that they started opening up. And what this does is it connects you nicely to the audience. In this course, I think we're going to be exploring how to make the audience the hero and to find a nice connection, that not to fear the audience, actually practicing till you get there, but then finding a way to demystify the audience and bring them in. And then, as you see, he walks through his life, about his family, how he turned out just fine, and in fact, quite well with the things he was able to achieve, and then how he brings Iowans into the conversation and implores them and also tempts them to do the right thing. So that was our case study today. And in each class, we will have different case studies. This can be in politics and business. It can be across different industries, but I think the learnings are universal. So towards that, let me stop here and just see if you have more questions. And also, if you have questions specifically, let's start with questions about the upcoming course first. What would you like to know about that? And if not now, you're welcome to decide when you want to do it. But are there any questions related to our intervention? So I think, Nija, thanks for coming in. And I guess there's a question on seats, I think, that you can decide. There's always there's a desire to fill the class and get a lot of perspectives, but then also we understand a little bit of the trade-off of having more intimate perspectives too. So I think this is something that Masters Union is going to think about. As Suman has asked that, it is going to be an online course because this is how I've been delivering my courses throughout the pandemic. And what that does is it makes it convenient for both, you and I to come in, so you don't need to travel somewhere for it. And I think Zoom gives you enormous potential. As you've just seen, I can share things online. You can bring out the lessons. And when we're doing this in a meeting format, we can see each other. And for me, it's just like you are in the real classroom, because I will call you out if I see something, if I see that you don't understand something, or I will push you, to interact. And largely have your videos on too.
Absolutely. Right. And there are going to be Ask Me Anything AMA sessions where you will be getting individual attention from Professor Mihir. So that is also included, of course, along with the online structure that is there.
Yeah, and that's again a function of how many join. So there will be, there'll be certain isolations on your working we'll be having basically a 20-hour course. And in that course, there's a set of items to get through, and then there'll be maybe an opportunity for you to come in and ask certain questions. But largely, you'll be also, some of you who are ready will be delivering speeches on which you get feedback. It's just that in that amount of time, this works out well, because not everyone is ready to deliver speeches, and the ones who are able to take the time are able to still do so in a way that the class learns. Okay, I see a couple of other things. So do I need to be super polished in English speaking? No, I understand that people come from different thresholds, and personally, for me, it is very much exposure to people where you can get the greatest delta. So I do expect you to work a little harder, to do the readings, to participate as you can, but there is no judgment and nothing in terms of the quality of your English, as long as you can comprehend. You see, if your spoken English isn't that great, but you are getting what I'm sharing and you're benefiting by it, I think it's fine. But also let me know in advance so I understand when asking you to participate. It is, however, quite participatory. It's not a one-way street, and I do hope that you all are ready and excited to participate. Jyoti, where can we look for the curriculum? So this is something that Masters Union can provide to you. It's I should walk through it a little bit on the curriculum. So let me just see what was let me just pull up a similar course that I had offered. In fact, I'll pull up my current MBA course and just tell you what the components are. I think that is a good question. Okay, so here in course objectives, it's a pretty detailed syllabus here. So let me share. So here you'll see that this class is grounded in constant speaking, constant viewing and reading. And for the full MBA course, there is an actual speech recitation, but for you, it's optional. But so the topic areas are public speaking fundamentals, elevator pitching, impromptu speaking, a little bit on leadership communication, then style, structure, and storytelling. And there's also the art of framing, the art of sharing your core values and speaking to media or shining on Zoom. This is a second book that I'm working on, which is how to humanize the camera. And then the course concepts and summary will be provided. At the end, you'll have about 24 takeaways from the course. So it's basically every class has a purpose. It has readings to it. It's fairly rigorously designed. It's not fly by night. I've taught this over 150 times to different groups, graduate students and executives. So there's also assigned readings, and then there's more readings and viewings that I offer to you after the course if you'd like to study it in more detail. Yeah, then the curriculum is also on the website. Arpana, this is very different from Toastmasters because people do bring it up. It's an organization. Toastmasters has a little more structure and kind of getting people on. This is I feel like my course, at least the students have testified, has been a much deeper and nuanced journey into communication with the syllabus. If anything, Toastmasters supplements this, but at least I've been told it doesn't replace it. And there's a large number of grad students and executives for whom this is catered for. So it would hopefully be a lot richer with Toastmasters to complement this. How much time will we need to dedicate? Good. That's a good question, Tejas. I think, see, in the US, the standard is for every hour of instruction, you should ideally spend 3 hours outside. And that is, I understand, not the standard in India. And as I come to institutions, including Masters Union, I understand how that students are busy with many more subjects per capita, and it's difficult to do it. So my thought is, if you put 1 hour, 1 minute for every minute in class, you'll gain something out of it. You will be able to get by with a fraction of that. You'll still get hopefully a lot in class itself. But if you do that kind of homework, then we'll be in good shape. In terms of timings, Nija, I think, I don't know if you want to take this or if ever, but I think we're looking at timing that is convenient for executives. So in the past, I've done things that are like, evenings, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. So here we're looking surely at least one weekend day, but the other day would be India time, our post-business hours. Is this going to be like Toast? Is a combination of self-learning and may know the likely percentage? No, so Prem, I don't know what you mean by self-learning in life. I mean, I think there is readings and viewings that you can do in preparation for the course and to supplement the course, but a lot of the learning happens in class itself. So if you're signing up for it, you can plan to get most of it by yourself. There's not a lot of self-learning, but just readings to supplement the curriculum. And I think in the long run, I will be offering more turbo courses. My course in the US is 39 hours. This is 20 hours. I've also taught 10-hour courses. So I curate the syllabus to have the best content in a short amount of time. But I think there will be an opportunity to follow up on more nuanced topics. In terms of the fees, I think you can, Vidash has asked about this. You can take that up and maybe you can write to Vidash. You can reply to him one-on-one. I think over time, this will be a little dynamic, but I'll stay out of that right now. How many days and hours? So it is 20 hours and ideally done over, 20 hours. We do it at 2.5 hours per session. Then we have 8 sessions. So that is the ideal. But eventually, it's in the midst of getting scheduled exactly. It'll be roughly that much. I think much beyond that gets difficult and much lesser than that makes no sense to in terms of your time commitment. So it's about between 2.5 hours is what we're targeting. What does the trajectory of improving one's speech look like? This really ranges from person to person, but I think towards that question, my response is that there is, at least I have a good sensitivity for understanding that people come from different levels and backgrounds and in terms of mastery over the subject. And largely it is an experience that we can partake in where there's a lot of learning by osmosis. So especially in these courses, you don't have to worry that much about the grades. But I do hope that people come in prepared so that they can learn from one another. But this has never been a complaint that someone's been a better speaker than me to start with, or a worse speaker, and that we haven't had a good learning experience. I think we are good then with most questions. Can you speak more about your book? Does it only have speeches? What more can we find there? Okay, let me just walk you. Yes, you can find some resources there. There's actually a website here. So basically, I learned how to do Squarespace and spent several hours. In fact, 1,000 hours over the book, and then. But there is some resource that you might find very interesting there itself. So here's the website. That's a companion site to the book, and And this is, again, a collection of the 80 best speeches towards sharpening the what to say in these areas. And they're from students from all over the world. They've been in all kinds of backgrounds, business, army, nonprofit. This is a set of students who are featured in the book. And they come from all of these countries. They're from all of these schools and all of these universities. And then basically they spoke. These were the best speeches from the class. Several of them were recorded in an auditorium. And I think there's a lot of wisdom. In fact, there's a lot of life wisdom too. So if you look at the themes that's involved here from the students, it's on living mindfully, love and relationships, grief and grit, spirituality and faith, gender and sexuality, and overcoming obstacles. And you see how to think about a writing a good speech. So if you click on, this one. If you click on typical speech, right now it's password protected in the website, but the book will have pages where you see what they actually wrote. So finding balance, right? This is a core value speech and finding balance. And it's pretty short, 600 words, but sometimes shorter is really more difficult. And you can also click and gallery unravel people's speeches. So this temporarily, I will provide the password while you're taking this course, but ideally you just buy the book. And I priced it for India. I don't make much money. I make 30 rupees on a book. I just want to get people to access this, to understand the what to say, so that my job becomes easier. But I think the most relevant piece, so here's also, before that, there is an intro. So I write very quickly about my views on communication. I also write a conclusion. And there's, the former dean of Fletcher School who's written a foreword that's very powerful. And but I think the valuable part is in the community section, where you'll see what these classes have gone through. There is a Faces of Community sublink. Here, these are the speeches. You can actually watch videos of the speakers. And so, for example, if you were to watch this piece here, this is an event that I used to curate. And can you guess from this picture who... so this is just, I was emceeing these events, and you can find these videos of students... Who are speaking? Of some of these speakers, and you'll see their speeches delivered live.
Not so what I had expected.
You can actually see these people implementing the words basically that you are reading and how they delivered it too. So there's a 30% of them have videos here, and hopefully this makes it a whole ecosystem for you to learn. I hope that's helpful. Anything else? I think we are on that magic hour. So let's see if there's anything else that Ija or Hemant, do you want to bring up, and anything we should add to this?
I think absolutely, as the comments are also coming in, you've wrapped up pretty much all the aspects. And I've become very conscious after a couple of things that I had learned. So I think kudos to you. Thanks a ton for the masterclass. And I'm sure everybody in unison would agree. Their pace now will be more mindful of, will be very mindful of what we are saying, how we are saying, we'll be very mindful of ethos, pathos, and logos. So I think thanks a ton for this masterclass. Big thanks to you. And any doubts that anyone's having with regards to the program, please feel free to visit the website. And you can also connect with us, e-connect with us. Our entire team will just try to assuage all your doubts and give you the relevant answers for your queries. Thank you so much for your 1 hour. And I think pretty much that sums up the entire thing. Any last minute thoughts from your end? I think that'll be a befitting conclusion to the entire masterclass.
No, I mean, I just think that the journey should also be to not just, so how do I master something, but how can I slow time down and actually enjoy this process? And I certainly think this is possible. When you get to your relaxed state, the world becomes better for you. You can navigate it. You look forward to interactions. You prefer a conversation versus sending an email. And I think at least my hope is that if we're all spending time, we get on that trajectory, move the needle in terms of your ease of communication. Yeah. So I look forward to this journey. A similar course that I've done has been very well received. The alumni have been, at least so far, not asking for refunds. So that's, I think, good news. And I hope to see some of you in the class.